Heyo, Brick Brainos for the Coachspeak Index. What's up, everybody? You ready to plant some flags? Got 13 flag plants for you today for the 2025 Coachspeak Index flag plant episode. Oh, can't wait to get into it. You know what else I can't wait to do? And that's jump on Underdog Fantasy, which you can also do. Got a QR code here. If you're a video watcher, if you're an audio listener, got a link in the description. Gets you up to $1,000 in bonus cash, plus a free pick'em. Maybe use it on a season-long type thing like Cam Scattaboo. Higher than 3.5 rushing touchdowns. I'll go ahead and spoil it. We're going to talk about Cam Scattaboo in this flag plant episode. So stay tuned for that. And, why don't we just jump right on into it? I got one quarterback flag plant this year. It's New England Patriots quarterback Drake May. May rushed for 421 yards last season, which is pretty neat on the surface, especially given the fact that 2024 offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt and head coach Gerard Mayo only called one designed run for Drake May the entire season. And then you dig just a tiny bit deeper and you realize that, well, Drake May only participated in 10 games where he took at least 81% of the offensive snaps. In those 10 games, May rushed for 401 yards. If you're not a mathematician, I'll break it down for you. That is 40.1 rushing yards per game with just one designed run. If we were to extrapolate that over the course of a 17-game season, we are looking at 681.7 rushing yards. I did use a calculator for that, by the way. New Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel stated on August 10th that we want Drake May to be aggressive as a runner, just not reckless, where he's putting the ball or himself in harm's way. Drake May has such a great feel for what's happening in the pocket when it is the appropriate time to bail and use his legs. If we start getting some design runs added on top of that, we are cooking with gasolina. By the way, Drake May also quite good at throwing the ball, especially the deep ball. And he got a pretty nice weapons upgrade this year with the Patriots signing Stephon Diggs, drafting an explosive pass-catching back in Travion Henderson, who is now rocketing up draft boards. Also drafting receiver Kyle Williams in the 3rd round. Now, these draft picks don't always work out. So Kyle Williams, a bit of a wild card, but he has been dusting defenders in practice and in the preseason. So maybe the Patriots finally drafted a good receiver. It's like a half question mark at the end of that sentence there. Which I guess, well, I was going to say a question mark has a period in it. So already a bit of a half question mark there. Either way, Drake May's rushing upside makes him a later round Konami code quarterback with a very solid floor, and then cathedral ceilings if this passing game pops off. Speaking of pop, I expect Pop Douglas to be a reliable slot receiver for Drake May and the Patriots this season as well. All right, running backs. First up, Chase Brown. I want to welcome everyone who is just now hopping aboard this Chase Brown train. If you are in the Coachspeak Index Discord, you have been on this train for months. because you've been seeing everything that this coaching staff has said about him. I was genuinely shocked when I would listen to some fantasy podcasts during the summer, and analysts were scared of Zach Moss eating into Chase Brown's workload because, the coach speak on Zach Moss could not have been more bearish, referring to him as being one of the bottom guys in that running back room. Offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher said, "We expect Chase Brown to be a major part of what we do." Pitcher stated in a later press conference that they want to get their backs involved in the passing game. Head coach Zach Taylor has talked about the leap that Brown has taken as a pass catcher and pass protector. In June, Zach Taylor said, quote, "He's done a great job edging in there with a ton of great playmakers on offense and making himself a priority. Like, we got to get this guy the ball in as many ways as possible." And you say that with all the other weapons we already have. And so that's just a credit to him to find his niche and force us to have to give him the ball as many times as possible. End quote. In July, Dan Pitcher stated that Brown will be one of the focal points of the Bengals offense this year. And then a few days later, Pitcher said, quote, "I think Chase Brown is going to, by the end of the season, be a household name. He's everything that Austin Eckler was. I think that by the time the season's over, you'll all know who he is," end quote. So, yeah, I have been very in on Chase Brown, still in on Chase Brown. This is an explosive back, a workhorse back on possibly the NFL's most explosive offense, who will be involved in a lot of shootouts thanks to that porous defense. Opponents can't stack the box because they have to worry about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Looking very good for Chase Brown this year. Next running back flag plant is Kenneth Walker III. When Mike McDonald was hired as head coach in 2024, he came in talking about how he wanted to establish the run. His offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, was unable to do that. In fact, he was on the other end of the spectrum, passing the ball at the 5th highest rate in the NFL last season. Once the year was over, Grubb was fired. Mike McDonald brought in run-heavy offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, who ran 21 and 12 personnel at a clip of over 50% last year. When the Seahawks released their first depth chart this season, it was 21 personnel as their base, with fullback Robbie Oots featured in the backfield as a lead blocker. Clint Kubiak stated that they will employ some different run schemes, but that it starts with being an outside zone running team. Here's what else Kubiak said. "I'm really excited about Kenneth Walker in this zone scheme, but I've seen Ken play really good football in all schemes. I've seen him catch the ball out of the backfield, which I think is really important for our backs. Whatever we can do to get them touches, throwing them routes out of the backfield, throwing them screens, getting the ball in their hands, getting the ball to our best runners. And that's what Kenneth Walker is. And I think he's got a really good group of teammates who complement him, especially with Zach Charbonnet. Looking forward to Kenneth Walker in this scheme, and we're going to ask a lot out of him." I want to give you some quick stats from Fantasy Points Ryan Heath, who is a must follow on Twitter and a must read on the Fantasy Points website. Clint Kubiak ran the 2nd highest rate of outside zone in the NFL last year. Kenneth Walker has averaged 4.54 yards per carry on outside zone runs in his career. Zach Charbonnet has averaged 3.67 yards per carry on outside zone runs in his career. Kenneth Walker was the RB8 in expected points per game last season and saw a target share of 12.7%, which was 5th best. This Clint Kubiak offensive scheme could not be a better fit for Kenneth Walker. All we need for K9 to smash is for him to stay healthy, which Seattle is attempting to do and ensure by bubble wrapping him during this offseason. Next running back flag plant is Tony Pollard. But Greg, why is Tony Pollard a Coachspeak Index flag plant when Tennessee Titans head coach Brian Callahan said that in a perfect world, the division of labor is split a little more evenly between Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears? Well, for starters, Brian Callahan has a 30% reliability rating on Depth Chart Coachspeak and a 65% reliability rating on Usage and Workload Coachspeak. He talked up a 1A, 1B backfield of Pollard and Spears all of last offseason, which ended up being a big old lie. Tony Pollard saw the lion's share of opportunities in 2024, even when Tyjae Spears was active. Then you have the fact that Spears is already banged up, suffering a high ankle sprain in the Titans preseason opener. This guy is 5'10", 194 pounds. He just can't stay healthy. So it is time for Tennessee to mount up and ride Tony Pollard once again. I want you to check out this stat from Fantasy Points Data real quick. In 2021, Tony Pollard ranked first in yards after contact per attempt. He ranked second in 2022. Pollard then fractured his left tibia in the 2022 playoffs against the Niners. He had tightrope surgery that offseason. He then ranked 23rd in yards after contact per attempt in 2023. In 2024, he ranked fourth. And now Tennessee made some big upgrades on their offensive line, bringing in Kevin Zeitler, Dan Moore Jr., and then you have the huge upgrade at quarterback, going from Will Levis and Mason Rudolph to number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward. This is a much better offensive environment in 2025. It sets up quite nicely for Tony Pollard, who, on top of being a very good runner, is also a talented pass catcher. He saw the 9th most targets by a running back in 2024. And offensive coordinator Nick Holtz has stated this offseason that they want to keep using their running backs in the passing game because they know they can get explosive plays from these guys. All right, next running back flag plant. It's our guy. It's Cam Skattebo. This dude is an absolute dog, and the metrics reflect it. 98th percentile in missed tackles forced per attempt. 92nd percentile EPA per rush. He is an elite short yardage and goal line runner. He is also very dangerous in the pass game. His 1.95 yards per route run ranked first in the 2025 running back draft class. Cam Skattebo does pretty much everything that Tyrone Tracy does, but better. He doesn't have the top end speed that Tracy possesses, but he's not going down when you get your hands on him like Tyrone Tracy does. And Skattebo is ironically better in the pass game, even though Tyrone Tracy is a converted wide receiver. After the Giants drafted Skattebo, this is what Brian Daboll had to say about him. He plays with great contact balance. He's tough as nails. You can use him a variety of ways. He can catch and run routes. He has very good vision and quick feet. 220-pound back who runs with power and toughness and personality. When a coach starts talking about the personality that a running back runs with, that is underratedly big. And that meshes with what we have heard from Giants beat writer Pat Leonard, who said, quote, "The thing you need to know about Cam Skattebo is that Brian Daboll loves the guy," end quote. Go back to that NFL draft press conference. Look at Brian Daboll's face when they asked him about Cam Skattebo. Just a big old smile. In a July 28th presser, Daboll said that when you watched Cam Skattebo's tape, he was a physical player first and foremost. A hard guy to bring down when he has the ball in his hands. He has good soft hands in the receiving game. Like Abdul Carter, this is another guy that you could evaluate on tape and see his football instincts show up. The New York Football Giants do not trust Tyrone Tracy at the goal line. And that goal line and red zone area is where Cam Scattaboo shines the brightest. So that is the base that we are starting out with, is goal line and end zone back. Extremely high value touches. And then I believe he will be very involved outside of the red zone because this is just a dangerous weapon who can keep the sticks moving both as a runner and as a pass catcher. I think the season starts out with a little bit of a split between Tyrone Tracy as the lead runner and Cam Scattaboo as a highly involved complement. But I also think that Scattaboo claims that RB1 role as the season progresses, maybe even sooner if we see Tyrone Tracy's fumbling issues pop back up. All right, wide receiver flag plants. Let us start it off with Tetaroa McMillan. After drafting McMillan, general manager Dan Morgan said that he has really good play speed. What pops off the tape about him is how smooth he is, his body control, his ability to adjust to all types of throws, his catch radius, and his hands are elite. He catches everything outside his frame, and he can win the jump ball down the field and in the red zone. He puts the ball in the end zone, and that's obviously something we want to do. Both Dan Morgan and head coach Dave Canales in their post-draft presser highlighted multiple times the red zone threat that Tetaroa McMillan provides for them. In that same presser, Canales said that McMillan is a baller. There's a simple way to look at it when you watch film. The ballers show up and they make plays in big moments, and they're always looking to do something special. Offensive coordinator Brad Idzik later weighed in on T-Mac, saying that McMillan does a phenomenal job of being friendly to the quarterback in every route he runs. He does a great job at shaving the top of routes on in breaks and out breaks and being a hands catcher. He can run the entire route tree. In June, head coach Dave Canales said McMillan has a consistent ability to win at the top of the route. He uses his hands well. He has great body control for having that kind of frame and size. He's such a friendly target because he attacks the ball. Whenever it's thrown to him, you'll see him come back towards the ball. All that top of the route stuff that they're talking about and the in breakers and out breakers that McMillan is so good at, well, that also happens to be an area where Bryce Young really shines. So this was a very thoughtful and intentional draft pick by the Carolina Panthers to bring in an ex-receiver that fits perfectly into this offense and can really get this offensive machine up and humming. Bryce Young, by the way, targeted Tetaroa McMillan quite heavily during the preseason, and we knew that T-Mac would be really good on all these horizontally breaking routes, but we also saw him absolutely dust Derek Stingley Jr., one of the best corners in the league, on a double move to get open really deep down the field, which Andy Dalton ended up missing on because he got hit on the elbow. Dave Canales said in August that McMillan is here to stretch the field and play big. I will finish up with this on T-Mac. During the 2024 offseason, Canales said, quote, "As we build our offense, we really try to feature someone. And for us right now, where's Deontay Johnson at?" End quote. I said earlier this offseason, after the Panthers drafted Tetaroa McMillan, that I thought we would end up getting a similar quote from Canales on T-Mac. And it happened 17 days later when Canales said, quote, "He's going to get targeted a lot. He's going to be a big part of what we do," end quote. Dave Canales wants to feature his ex-receiver, and they drafted the perfect guy to fit that role. I am very big on Tetaroa McMillan this year. Next wide receiver flag plant is Jamison Williams. We got a very, very loud drum beat on Jameson Williams during the 2024 offseason. And people said, nope, it can't happen. He can't possibly break out because he didn't do anything the first 2 years of his career when he was coming off an ACL injury in his rookie season, then when he was dealing with a gambling suspension in his second year. Why would we trust Dan Campbell, who is one of the NFL's most trustworthy coaches when it comes to depth chart and usage and workload coach speak? And then Jameson Williams broke out in his third year, just like Dan Campbell told us that he would. And now in the 2025 offseason, we have Dan Campbell and new offensive coordinator John Morton telling us that Jameson Williams is going to have a huge season. And people are saying, no, that's impossible. He already broke out last year. His ceiling can't possibly be any higher. So, yeah, just when are we going to learn our lesson, folks? In May, Lions offensive coordinator John Morton said Jameson Williams can go from 0 to 60 fast. It's amazing. I haven't been around a guy like him. I mean, it's two players with him and Jahmyr Gibbs. That explosion. I was around Reggie Bush, and that kind of explosion is impressive. Those two guys have it. Morton went on to say, quote, he has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm so excited to see him this year. It's going to be a breakout year for him. So I can't wait. I just can't wait, man. End quote. Dan Campbell stated a couple weeks later that Jameson Williams has a ton of growth left. He's had a good spring, so much versatility with him. There are so many things that we can do just with his routes on the outside, and we can do things on the inside with his speed, and he's gotten so much stronger. His ability to stop and put his foot in the ground. When you can run like he can run and you can stop on a dime, you're talking about a hard cover. Quote, so the sky's the limit for him. End quote. Campbell then stated, quote, we expect him to have a huge season. We really do, man. He's going to be one of these guys that we're going to lean on this year and is really going to be big for us. End quote. Dan Campbell, by the way, has a 90% reliability rating on usage and workload Coachspeak. And then we got this kind of a bombshell quote from Dan Campbell in a June 6th presser, where Campbell said that we've tweaked a few things here and there on offense. It's about what John Morton really wants, how he sees it, how he wants things run, how he wants to isolate certain players. A lot of the focal point was Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta, among others. I thought we've really honed in on their versatility and all the things they can do. Quote, how many times and ways can we isolate one of these guys? I think that's what it comes down to. Get it in their hands and let them go to work and do what they do. Quote, end quote. Finally, on July 28th, offensive coordinator John Morton said, you've seen Jameson Williams' skill set. He's explosive. He's gotten better every year. I want to take that skill set and isolate him. I'm very excited where he's at right now. He's going to help us win some big games, end quote. What's really great about all of this is that camp reports back it up. Jameson Williams has been a focal point of the offense. He's still doing the deep stuff he's so good at, but he's also running a bunch of routes out of the slot where they can throw him these layups on short crossers and let that speed go to work. Huge season incoming for JMO. Next wide receiver flag plant is Matthew Golden. In a February 25th press conference, Green Bay Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst talked about needing to be able to control games via the passing game. So it made a lot of sense when the Packers drafted a wide receiver in the first round for the first time in 23 years. I talked earlier about how great Tetairoa McMillan is on horizontally breaking routes. Well, Matthew Golden is also really good at that stuff, and he's landing in a Matt LaFleur offense that heavily features these types of routes. Do you guys remember what we wanted Christian Watson to be and what the Packers wanted Christian Watson to be? That very well may be Matthew Golden. He's versatile. He has blazing speed to stretch the field. He can be used on those jet sweeps. He has very good hands when it comes to catching the ball. And then he's excellent with the ball in his hands. People are just, kind of scared about this offensive environment because Green Bay has been distributing the ball all around the wide receiver room. But don't you think that if they had a true wide receiver one, maybe that guy would command the volume and quality of targets that a number one wide receiver gets? Now, I'm not convinced that Matthew Golden shoots out of the gates as quickly as I believe Tedero McMillan will. May take him a little bit more time, but I do believe that Matthew Golden will be a reliable producer as the season goes on. And there's a really big upside there as well when you have a player who can win both intermediately as a yak guy and then with the deep vertical shots as well. He is going way too late in drafts because people have been burned by Packers receivers and they just can't see the vision. But by the time the vision manifests and becomes clear and real, it's too late because you were scared to draft him. Next, wide receiver, flag plant, is Luther Burden III. Here's new Bears head coach Ben Johnson in an April 1st press conference. Where I've been in the past, slot receivers have been the focal point of the passing game. Now, here's what Ben Johnson said about Luther Burden after drafting him. He's a stud. He's a playmaker waiting to happen. For 6 foot and 200 plus pounds, it's rare to see someone with his movement skills. He can stop on a dime and immediately accelerate. Give him a little bit of space, and he can make big things happen. A dangerous player and weapon. I see big things in his future. And here is offensive coordinator Declan Doyle in August talking about Burden. What we saw in Luther Burden's college tape is what you're seeing right now. The explosive athlete. Just like any of our guys, if they're going to create separation and they're going to get open and we're able to get them the ball, we can feature them and find ways to really create an explosive offense. Luther Burden is going really late in drafts right now. That ADP started cratering when Burden picked up a hamstring injury during OTAs. Then we saw Olamide Zaccheaus work with the starters in the preseason. But we also saw Luther Burden lay the wood on some crackback blocks at the goal line, which is what the coaching staff and general manager Ryan Poles wanted to see from him, because they are very big on what players are doing when the ball is not in their hands. When Luther Burden gets up to speed in this offense, it is a wrap for Olamide Zaccheaus, in my opinion. Burden is elite with the ball in his hands. He forced a missed tackle on nearly half of his receptions last season. Absolute yak monster. And that is so crucial for a Ben Johnson offense that is all about raising Caleb Williams' completion percentage and passing EPA by shooting the ball out to the short and intermediate part of the field and letting these yak guys create explosive plays. If Luther Burden claims Ben Johnson's coveted slot receiver role, he will annihilate his current ADP, and you will have a weekly starter at a very cheap price. On to our next receiver flag plant. It is Torrey Horton. This guy is a really solid prospect who Matt Harmon of Reception Perception likes quite a bit. And then we started getting multiple other data points on the rookie as of late. First of all, Seattle Seahawks head coach Mike McDonald on August 5th was asked about Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and McDonald said this about MVS. He knows he's in a depth chart battle. I think he respects Torrey Horton and what Torrey is doing. He's a competitor at heart. Quote, he's had a great career, but there's also a lot of great competition too, end quote. Then, 2 days later, Torrey Horton showed out in Seattle's first preseason game. I believe that Torrey Horton claims that wide receiver 3 spot early in the season if he doesn't already have it week 1 or when he's active, dealing with a little ankle injury right now. I think he also has a shot at leapfrogging Cooper Kupp at some point. No one loved Cooper Kupp more than Rams head coach Sean McVay and Rams general manager Les Snead, and they made it abundantly clear after last season that there is no way they were bringing him back. I think that is a huge red flag for Kupp because the Rams know him better than anyone, and they were completely fine letting him go. Being able to claim that wide receiver 2 spot would be really huge for Torrey Horton because, as I mentioned when I was talking about Kenneth Walker, the Seahawks under Clint Kubiak will be in 2 receiver sets for the majority of snaps. So I am not expecting much out of the wide receiver 3 in this offense, at least on a weekly basis for your managed leagues. If Horton does become wide receiver 2 at some point, then he is the beneficiary of a consolidated target tree because they are not passing to their fullback all that often. The tight ends are not exactly lighting the world on fire, and A.J. Barner and Elijah Arroyo. The running backs are seeing some targets for sure, but it would mainly be Jackson Smith-Njigba and Torrey Horton. I love Horton as a late round dart for best ball, and I love him as a stash in redraft and dynasty. Last wide receiver flag plant is Jalen Coker. A second Panthers receiver flag plant in this economy? You better believe it, pal. I am coked up like Scarface over here. Jalen Coker was an undrafted free agent for the Panthers last year. He started playing significant snaps in week 5, and then from week 10 on, when he was healthy, he played at least 82% of snaps, and he absolutely destroyed man coverage, led all receivers in yards per catchable target versus man in 2024. Thank you to Jacob Gibbs for that stat, one of the best follows on Twitter. Go give him a follow. The Panthers, by the way, play the Seattle Seahawks in week 17, who are one of the more man-heavy defenses in the NFL. So that is a super nice matchup in the final week of the fantasy playoffs. Jalen Coker is just a good receiver who can play multiple spots. And I think he has a shot to dust guys like Adam Thielen, who may not even need to be dusted, as Thielen is the subject of some trade rumors that are swirling around. I believe Jalen Coker can also dust Hunter Renfrow, maybe even Xavier Leggett. I think Coker's floor is a couple spike weeks in best ball. And then the ceiling is full-time starter who may be startable in redraft leagues. And you can get all of that at the very end of your drafts. Pretty cool. All right, let's do a couple tight end flag plants. Number 1, Tyler Warren. I want to take us on a nice little stroll down the timeline of things that the Colts have said about Tyler Warren. And it actually starts back in the 2024 offseason. Head coach Shane Steichen and general manager Chris Ballard had been publicly thirsting for a Y tight end for well over a year. Steichen spoke in March 2024 about the importance of guys like Antonio Gates, who provide you with a serious advantage running routes in the middle of the field against linebackers and safeties, while also being a legitimate blocker in the run game. In general manager Chris Ballard's end of season presser in January of 2025, he spoke on the Colts tight end situation and said, quote, "I've got to be able to give Shane and them a guy that can really control the middle of the field that teams have to account for and defend," end quote. After drafting Tyler Warren with the 15th overall pick, Chris Ballard said, "Tyler Warren was an easy pick. There wasn't a lot of discussion. He can do a lot. He can play multiple spots. He's got the quarterback background, so he can play in the backfield. He's a great 50-50 ball catcher. He's violent after the catch. He brings an element of toughness that I thought we needed to add offensively." Ballard added, quote, "I think Shane will find unique ways to use him," end quote. Ballard also said, "Tyler Warren is one of those guys who's always open. That's part of his uniqueness. His hands are pretty rare. I thought he had the best hands of any player in the draft. He's a unique dude. He's going to be able to handle a high volume of whatever we ask him to do." Then head coach Shane Steichen said, "Tyler Warren can do it all. He's physical with the ball in his hands. He gets yak. He'll lay the wood on you. He'll hurdle you. He's going to bring a lot to our team for sure. He's a big target who plays above the rim. When guys are on him, he's still open." A couple weeks later, Steichen said, "We'll have some fun with all the things Tyler Warren is able to do." In early June, Steichen said Tyler Warren is very smart. He picks up things very quickly. He's been phenomenal so far. His movement skills, great feel, great instincts. On July 29th, offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter said, "We're putting a lot on Tyler Warren's plate. I think he's going to be a very versatile piece for us. We're going to try a bunch of different stuff with him, give him a bunch of shots at a bunch of different aspects of playing offensive football. I think he's going to do a bunch of it really, really well." In an August 10th interview with Kay Adams, Shane Steichen said Tyler Warren has a natural feel for the game. He has an awareness for zones and voids in the defense when he's running routes. The one thing that's really impressive about him is that he has unbelievable hands. And when he's out in open space, he is so physical at the point of attack. He's going to lower his shoulder and go after you. I love that about him. Finally, in an August 14th presser, Steichen said, "We know that when the ball is in Tyler Warren's vicinity, he's got a high percentage of catching the football. You saw it on tape, but to see it up close and personal through OTAs and training camp, it's impressive." Steichen added that anytime you have a tight end like that, getting those matchups over the middle against linebackers and safeties makes the quarterback's life a lot easier. I think it is very clear that Tyler Warren is going to be a central pillar of the Colts offense. I think we will be talking about him this time next year as an elite tight end option. Not only does he have unbelievable hands, like the Colts keep saying, and he is going to terrorize linebackers and safeties over the middle part of the field, but we also saw manufactured screens for Warren in the preseason, as well as several deep shots where he got wide ass open. We're talking about usage at all three levels of the field. And then there are also the Taysom Hill vibes that we are getting from the Colts on all the different ways they can use him out of the backfield, potentially as a quarterback now and then. I would not be surprised if we see some goal line usage for Warren this year, maybe in the form of a tush push. He's going to be a big, big factor for this 2025 offense. And you can draft him in a similar range to where we were drafting Brock Bowers last year, right around the 9th round. All right. Final flag plant is Green Bay Packers tight end Tucker Kraft. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur referred to two players as an animal last year. One was Josh Jacobs. The other was Tucker Kraft. LaFleur was asked in his end-of-season presser in January whether there's a possibility that Tucker Kraft in Green Bay's offense could do what George Kittle or Travis Kelce do. And LaFleur responded, quote, 100%. And I think that's on us to make sure that we find him and feature him. When he gets the ball in his hands, you feel him. So if there is an area that we got to do a better job on, I would say featuring the tight end, end quote. Which, would make a lot of sense, seeing as how Tucker Kraft led all tight ends in yards after the catch last year. In a May 12th press conference, offensive coordinator Adam Stenavich said there's a lot of opportunity for Tucker Kraft going into this year. We spent some time this offseason on where we can get him to take the next step. Quote, just trying to find different ways to get him the ball. That's going to be the big thing for us, end quote. A couple months later, Matt LaFleur stated that, quote, I think he's just scratching the surface of what he's going to become. And certainly we got to do a good job of giving him opportunities, end quote. Adam Stenavich, again, on July 30th, said Tucker Kraft is a playmaker. Quote, anytime we can get the ball in his hands, good things happen, end quote. This all sounds to me like Tucker Kraft is going to be a key piece of the Packers offense this year. If good things are happening when you get the ball into a guy's hands, you want to keep getting the ball into that guy's hands. You don't have to galaxy brain to come to the conclusion that maybe the Packers are going to feature their tight end who led the NFL in yards after the catch last year. Add in the fact that Kraft is such a lethal weapon in the red zone, and this is a very strong pick in those later middle rounds of your draft. All right, that's it. 13 flag plants for 2025. Hope you enjoyed it. I may be back with another episode or two of the podcast before the season starts, and then we will be pumping out a weekly show when regular season football kicks off. Okie dokie. Sarah, take us out.